Marketer on the Run, Remso W. Martinez, where we're building skills for marketers, solutions for business owners, and helping everyone in between focus on success and not stress. Today, we have the privilege of sitting down with a remarkable figure in the world of online entrepreneurship and media, and now he's taken the watch world by storm. You got to let me get through the brag portion, Tim, because I know you're not going to brag for yourself. So let me brag for you. Tim Hermes is a retired media executive turned entrepreneur who's taken the online world by storm with his brand, Monterey Watch Company. As you can tell, his dog is also very, very excited to be on today.
I'm going to kick him out. As soon as we go to a break, I'm going to kick him out.
It's in 2022, Tim embarked on an audacious journey by founding and quickly becoming synonymous with quality timepieces with his company, debuting his black tip watch, which my dad has at least like 3 different versions of now. Just throwing that out there, Tim. In its first year, Monterey sold over 750 timepieces in its inaugural year, achieving profitability right out of the gate, a testament to Tim's vision and determination. Monty's success story is thanks to that of its strong presence on platforms such as Instagram and Facebook, and leveraging the power of brand ambassadors such as yours truly. People actually ask, like, what watch are you wearing on the cover of the podcast? I tell them frequently, it's my Monterey Great White GMT.
Don't forget
001, the serial number. Well, they've been able to connect to audiences across the watch community on Instagram and online and drive sales. Tim, thank you so much for coming on today.
I would crawl across broken glass to be with you, my friend.
Appreciate you, sir. So let's just go ahead and jump into it.
Okay.
When did the love of watches is like, much like that of a drug addiction. Once you kind of get into it, you never really get away from it. It takes all your money. Your friends and family don't know why you need to buy more of them. And for the outside consumer, they're just like, why would you wear a watch? You could wear an Apple Watch and all this other nonsense I hear on a regular basis. So when did your love of watches actually start for you?
So my siblings don't remember this, but my grandfather was... I don't know what the word they would have said back then, but he was a stylist. He used to wear an ascot. He worked at a bank. He used to wear an ascot. This was like the late 60s, and he drove
pimping.
He drove a two-seater Mercedes, and this is Garden City, New York, in the 60s. But he had a Rolex. He had a Rolex. It was probably a Datejust or something similar. And I used to love to listen to a tick. Now, my brothers and sisters don't remember this, which is crazy because he put it next to his cigarettes, next to his chair, and I always kind of dug it. But then, the real, I guess the addiction kicked in when I won a bunch of sales contests in the mid '90s, and I won a couple of megas, and right about that time,
that's a big victory right there.
Thank you. But what was the Pierce Brosnan? Was that No Time to
Die?
Goldeneye. It was Goldeneye.
Yeah, it was the only Omega Seamaster to come out with the quartz movement in 1995.
Yes, it was. And I was smart enough not to get one of those, but I did. But I got an automatic. I think it's a 40 or 41, but and then gave it to my son when he graduated from high school, and he's never taken it off. And so that's how it started. That's, through the years I've spent, way more than I should. I've never made money on one. But past couple of years, I've kind of refined the collection down to my favorite Dirty Dozen. And that's been where it is.
So you don't have any that are just like living in the case, never to be taken out. You try and get wrist time.
I have one. I put wrist time on a lot of them. I have one that I wear only a few times a year, and that's the one I bought last year. When I made a pilgrimage to Geneva, Switzerland, and bought a Speedmaster.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you spent your career in the world of professional marketing and advertising.
Yep, I did.
When you retired from that, many people would have just been like, I'm done working. I'm going to play golf. I'm going to sit on my laurels, and I'm just going to, enjoy not working. how much time passed between when you left your career to when you finally were like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and start this watch business? And had this been an idea for you for a while, or was this just something where you were like, you know, if the stars align, I'll do it. If not, it was a good idea. What was the origin story in that regard?
Oh man, I don't know. I wish I could say it just hit me one day. What happened was my wife gave me a do-it-yourself kit. I retired in September of 21, and and my wife, September 21, I think, whatever. My wife gave me a do-it-yourself watch kit because I had said I really wanted to try building. You know, I've collected them all my life. I want to try building one, right? Building is an inaccurate term because they're watchmakers and watch builders are different things. Building is accurate. Watchmaking is a different story, which I couldn't dream of it.
Is watchmaking when you're actually like constructing the movement and stuff like that?
When you're putting the movement together, yeah, it's a lot more granular. Yeah. So she made me one, and I was just hooked, dude. I was like, oh my gosh. And then people started asking me to build them a few. I made a ton of mistakes, but it got to the point where I was like, you know what? I can take what I have learned in my career in media and marketing, and I can apply it to this. It was crazy because I had no experience in watch building, no experience whatsoever in retail, and my experience in online marketing was more email marketing and less social, just from my career timeline, right? And you know, I was just like, I didn't do a business plan, but I did kind of have a good vision, which is, you know, starting to pay off.
You know, it's interesting you bring up that, you know, you had spent more time in email, not as much as social. I always started out as a social guy, and I always find that throughout different points of my career, I'm always being pulled back to social. But I've drifted more towards email over the last couple of years, especially since the pandemic.
Right.
And what I find, and this is what I love about Monterey, you know, like Seiko has a horrible social media presence. I just like, I love Seiko, but whoever is just taking the stock images and stuff like that, like, you're not doing them service. I think Tissot does well.
Yeah.
I think Omega has done well only in the last couple of years. Others like Jack Mason are coming up, and, you know, I like how they're doing their stuff. It's more storytelling oriented. But with Monterey, I mean, it's fun. It's engaging. I know you didn't spend too much time, you know, learning the ins and outs of social media, but it seems like you kind of hit the ground running with it. You've already surpassed 3,000 followers the first like year and a half or so.
7,000. 7,007 as of today.
Damn. What was that transition like?
What's that?
What was that transition like? Because a lot of people get overwhelmed, and I find this with marketers who have been in the industry for a while. It's like they stick with one discipline, and then they never want to leave that. So when you were trying to figure out social media, what were some of the things you were looking at? Who were some of the other, you know, like brands or pages that you were trying to get inspiration from?
I looked at other brands, other watch companies to see what they were doing and how they were doing it. But I was looking at them more for their photography and for lighting and more the artistic element, right? Because shooting a watch, Remso, is hard. A black dial, the dust. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you. If I showed you my iPhone, it would be like, you know, thousands of pictures. I did that, but what I really let me take you know what? I did have a goal. The goal was make a really good watch at a really good price and lie about nothing. Don't say anything that isn't absolutely true and transparent. And I thought that my angle to that would be tell the truth from the get-go. You know, the watch community can be a little upper crust. It can be a little snobby, right? Yeah, but it's a watch, you know. Let's make an everyman's watch. Let's make an everyday wear, and let's not lie about what we are, and what we aren't. So I looked at Seikos. I looked at Tudor, Omega, Rolex, Jack Mason, you know, and then all of the micro brands and kind of and they all had a specific voice, you know. But what none of them did say was, "Hey, we mostly manufacture or purchase our parts in Asia." All of them do, all of them, but no one wants to admit it. Oh no, it's made in China, or it's made in Hong Kong, or it's made in Singapore. Why? You know, just tell the truth, you know, and put it out there. And then that became a wait a second. Why can't the watch world be fun and interesting? And why can't we poke some fun at ourselves? It doesn't always have to be draped over the, you know, the steering wheel of a Porsche 911, you know? So
Like a beautiful woman and a T-bone steak on the beach and everything.
yeah,
And the
right?
watch is just like, you know, a fraction of the overall photo.
Yeah. It's crazy. But, you know, but the other thing is that, you know, was demographic focus. That really came into picture about a year in. So we've been live about 18 months now, and about a year in, really the market came into focus, and that's when I started using hashtags better. I hired up a social media team, et cetera, et cetera. So so the artistic side came from photography, absolutely. The marketing angle and the growth came through writing properly, and really kind of looking at videos like yours, watching Marketer on the Run, watching, you know, other YouTube stuff, because look, I'm an old dog. I had to learn new tricks, and, you know, being willing to learn from a 25-year-old who has a bazillion followers. It's not that hard once you realize that what they're doing is really, really strong and solid.
I'm glad you say that, because I speak with small business owners and entrepreneurs all the time that, you know, I feel that a lot of agencies, a lot of freelancers, they come in and they're trying to sell you courses. I don't sell a course. They're trying to sell you books. My ebook, the Small Business Owner's Digital Marketing Handbook, is absolutely free. Now, am I a bad entrepreneur, or is there a reason why I'm doing this? The reason why I'm doing this is because all the information is out there. All I can do is condense knowledge and information into the way that I communicate with people to develop a relationship. And I
Right.
think ultimately the best thing that business can do is train their team to at least speak the same language and know what right looks like. So whether they're working with an in-house marketer or they hire out a fractional CMO or a freelancer, it's better to communicate that in a way that everyone's on the same level
Right.
versus a marketer coming in and overwhelming you with KPIs and stats and SEO and everything. And then you don't even know if you're getting the results you want back.
Right.
So, you know what I
I
liked
agree.
about your website from the get-go, and this is where I could really see the ad man in you and everything, is the about section in your copy. You're speaking straight to the consumer. And I feel that, you know, I look at old Victoria's Secret, for example. I think this is something I read in the textbook a long time ago. And, you know, Victoria's Secret was one of the first major fashion brands and magazines to actually put out an ideal customer. It was Victoria. It was supposed to be an aspirational figure. And whether you're talking Brooks Brothers or Rolex, you know, if anyone is selling anything, what are they selling you if not aspiration? It's this
Right.
you know, the status in society which you're trying to achieve. What I've always loved about Monterey, it's like, listen, you want awesome, you want affordable, you want quality. Well, I want you to actually wear this watch. I
Yeah.
want you to make memories of this watch, get scratches on this
Beat
watch,
it up. Yeah.
and not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
And
My
I mean, that
brother,
spoke to me, and that, I mean, I could tell that speaks to your customers.
it does. And my brother Paul, is, well, everything he does is great, but he happens to be just a world class flamenco guitarist, and none of his guitars are flawless. They're scratched, they're dirty, they're worn down. And, you know, one time I bumped it by accident. I was like, sorry. He goes, embrace the dings. You know, like that's how I want these pieces to be worn. They're not it's not a Rolex. It's 1/10 the price of a Rolex. That's not what I want. What I want is to guys to have a little bit of style and not wear a smartwatch on date night. And I think that you and I can agree. Come on, man.
Come on, man. I had
Come on,
to, the last wedding I attended as a best man, I
tell me
went ahead.
the groom did not have a smartwatch on. Please tell me.
I bought him a watch. I bought him a watch specifically for the purpose of him not taking photos. And 20 years from now, people are like, what's that thing on your wrist? And it's like, it used to tell us what people were texting us and everything. I'm like, no, you want timeless, you want classy. I mean, I bought myself, I've told you this before, for my wedding, I went ahead and bought myself a Laurier when I got married in 2022. I always
Those are
tell
great.
people, it's like, you want, I think a watch is one of the few things that a man can truly accessorize with.
Yeah,
I think a
yeah.
watch is
It's the
truly
only
one.
it's the only voluntary jewelry you can pull off, right?
Exactly.
Unless
And
you're Steven Tyler,
you could do
or
all those other things,
oh
all the
yeah,
bangles, all the
yeah,
scarves.
yeah.
Yeah, but it's like, you want to make those memories, and you want to have something that's not just going to like disappear. What I like about your stuff is, it's got that Omega blend. It's got that early Rolex Explorer vibe to it. I
Yep.
own 4 of your watches now,
Wow.
and they all have the same, the same identity, but they're all different in function and everything
Yes.
else.
Yeah, we want to keep the DNA the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk content marketing, because
Okay.
to start from 0 to get to 7,000, to build an email list, to start getting brand ambassadors in,
Yeah.
how did that look when you were working with your team and you were like, okay, here's how we want to do content. We want to do reels. We want to do photos. I think the biggest thing that stands out with you is that you are directly engaging with customers as yourself. It's not
Hmm.
just this, mysterious, vague Wizard
Right.
of Oz brand that's talking. It's you. So why did you decide to do that? Did you think that was going to be something that was necessary? Were you taking a risk with that? How
Oh
did that
man,
content strategy start?
it started because no one else was doing it. That's
True.
why. That's why. I think there is one guy. There's a guy in Texas who does it as well. His I don't try to put my photo ever on the um, in any of my feeds. We do maybe once every 2 months just to do it, but I like the watches and the brand ambassadors to really be rocking that. Um, so it was a strategy for forgiveness. Now go with me on this. I don't have a clean room, right?
Mhm.
I don't have a factory in Asia with a lot of very, very talented people in white coats and gloves and hats manufacturing for me, right? It's me and some help. Um, I, if you have a personal relationship with a client, you get forgiveness. It's just one of those things, right? So I make a mistake. I put my business card in every package, for example, right? And I say, my business card is enclosed. If you have any problems, reach me. You can even text me. This is my personal phone number, right? And what that did was that forgiveness strategy that helped me get over the QC issues when you're starting. I have ADHD really bad, so I flip zip codes in my head all the time. I have a tough time concentrating. So by adding a human element, signing everything, texting somebody at 11 o'clock at night if they can't find their USPS tracking number, whatever is this built this kind of bank of goodwill. And that bank of goodwill really paid off because once I got over the initial hump, um, uh, once I got over the initial hump, what happened was that goodwill didn't become forgiveness; it became business, right? Because
I like it.
people like you started buying another watch. Your dad, for example, your dad returned something to me once. I don't know if it was something was. I can't remember if he didn't like it, but I
I
was
think it was
just like,
something with the bezel.
yeah, it's bezel,
Yeah.
whatever. But it was like, not only am I going to fix it, you're going to get some extra love in there, And I back in the day for my sales team, I used to say, touch, touch, touch. Anytime you touch this person, you're going to give them something better than what they had before you made the mistake, right? Oh my gosh, we ran the wrong ad. I'm so sorry. We're going to run it next week, but look, hey, I happen to have an open insertion in this newsletter that's going out, so I'm going to copy in that, right? So every time that goodwill bank, even when you're drawing a debit on that goodwill, you're actually adding to it. It worked for, that's what had made Nordstrom so great for so long. And when retail was big was, service. So that was one of the things. The other thing is can I tell you about the turkey promise?
Yeah.
All right. So the turkey promise is something that I've just kind of, I made it up, but I mean it in a very big way. And that is, my customer service to you as a customer has failed unless you invite me to Thanksgiving dinner.
I like it.
So
I haven't been invited to anything from any of my clients yet, so I need to start adapting that strategy going forward.
Well, that's the thing. It probably will never happen, but I want somebody to feel so damn good about the experience with us that they're going to want to invite me to Thanksgiving dinner. They might not actually invite me, but I want them to want me to, right? So at some point when the company grows and scales, I'm not going to be able to do this, right? So it's good to have these strategies in place now, so I can, to the people, to the next layer I hire underneath me, that they're all going to get it and they're all going to understand it.
Yeah, I think it's so important you say that, because especially in a world run by e-commerce, even small businesses just doing little things like that matter immensely.
Yeah.
And like what you mentioned, when people go ahead and buy a Monterey watch from you, the box is beautiful. The envelope that has, the guides and the warranty and everything, you write on each of those. I always see customers posting their watches, and the first thing you usually see is that envelope with your handwriting on there. It's a personal touch.
Thanks.
And I mean, for me as a marketer, the sales component is always the most difficult thing for me. I'm an introvert by nature. After this, I'm going to go take a 15-minute nap in the dark because I've just got to recharge. But, when I first launched my agency, the first thing I did was I had a bunch of prospective clients I wanted to meet. I knew that if I wouldn't hard pitch them at their business, it's going to be a solicitation. It's going to come off as skeezy. I wouldn't buy, I think, like 10 boxes of a dozen donuts from Dunkin' Donuts. And I put my business card inside. I went, dropped it off at all those places, just said, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. I'd like to talk to you later. And I walked out.
Nice.
And just doing that, I'm still waiting to see. It's still very soon. I'm still waiting to see, how my follow-up strategy and everything works with that.
I got your follow-up strategy, man. Now go get 10 giant cups of coffee, put your business card again, say, I forgot to bring this.
I'm typing this as we talk. Okay, get the coffee. Dunkin' Donuts is expensive. Gas station donuts are way cheaper, by the way.
Dunkin' Donuts is awesome.
Yeah.
I love the dunks, man.
That's why I went with Dunkin', because who's never been happy? And I put a card in each one. Right. I said, how would you feel? I took your strategy. I put a handwritten card with each one that had my business card inside, and said, how would you feel if every time your customers saw your content, they felt as excited as you were when you saw these free donuts? And I just left it at that. You
just felt warm inside.
Yeah. So, what were some of the challenges you had? Because the biggest intimidation factor for any brand is coming up from zero. What were some of the things you saw at the beginning that worked out really well? But what were some of the things that you were like, I like this strategy, but it's not giving me the type of results that I want?
Yeah. We're talking about digital marketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Video. Believe it or not, I spent a ton of time, not a lot of capital, but a lot of time producing videos for my first 6 months, and they had no engagement, none. Because guess what? I should have just paid attention to the other companies that were doing it well, and they don't post video, right? Mm-hmm. So to your audience, just because you have the access to video or have access to a technology does not mean you should do it. Don't be a jack of all trades, master of none. Be great at what you are. Be great at what you do. Step sideways, little steps at a time. that was one of them. Twitter was the other one. It was worthless to me. What's it called
Well,
now?
it's good. It's called X. It's good you identify that, and I want to stick on that point because here's another issue I see all the time. You stuck with the ones that worked for you: Facebook, Instagram, and email
Email.
and email.
Yeah,
So those two components. One is you're on the third party platform. You work with the algorithms. Email is important for everybody. And Tim, it would shock you. You probably know this, but it would shock you the number of small business owners I talk to that don't retain email from clients. They don't have a CRM. They're not touching bases with them, sending out discounts and stuff like you do, sending out
that's
updates.
insane.
I just don't get it, but I still encounter them. The thing I find
The magic number is 40, and the 40 characters in your subject line have to be perfect. That's the rule. When I nail a subject line, my sales, I see a reflection every time.
yeah.
But again, that's the beauty of digital marketing. And you're the pro here. I mean, I worship a lot of people, but I have based my life on your teachings, right? So
you're too kind. You're too
no,
kind.
one of the things is, again, email works for me, so I'm going to stick with email. But I started with Facebook and Insta, and I stepped sideways as my list built, and eventually I'll probably, and I do use Google Ads now too.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually when the next time comes up, I'm sure I'll give it a shot. But right now we haven't reached critical mass on the platforms that we already use, so it's crazy for me to go on to X. It's just not where you need to be,
And it's really important that you identify that because people will go ahead and they'll go on Reddit, they'll go on Twitter, they'll go on every platform under the sun. And what that does is that's diluting your content value. Social media is meant to be social. I see you responding to comments, you respond to DMs, you're doing live streams and all that type of stuff. Like you're being engaged with people. A lot of people forget that social element is also interaction. So what I try and remind people is like you don't need to be everywhere. You need to be where you feel the most comfortable and where your audience is. I think the one thing, and this is some free advice, Tim, I think the one place you could go very easily because you already have the content is TikTok. I
it's
think
video.
if you just went ahead and took some of your live streams and download them and put them on TikTok, you already have the content. You could probably just kind of let that, sit and fester for a little while. And then if you want to expand, you already have a presence there. You've secured your handle, you've secured your name, you already have some content that you could build up on. So when that day comes where you're like, oh, wow, they have an image feature, which I think TikTok is going to have. This is my prediction. Hold me to it, folks.
Okay.
In 2020, but between 2024, this year, 2025, TikTok will try and take out Instagram by adding an images and carousel feature. I think they're going to do that.
So I do have a TikTok handle, and I did, but again, that was during my experiment with video thing, and TikTok is video. I think that's an interesting idea. Just because it's video doesn't mean it can't be a still image. I could just do a 6-second video of a still image, right?
You could do that. Yeah. You could do a montage of stuff. I mean, I don't want you to have to create content. I don't want you to have to create content and stretch your time to creating stuff just for TikTok. But for some of the things on there, they could be transferable. But it's good that you have the name parked. It's good that you have the handle and everything. So when and if that day comes, you're already set.
All right, I'm going to do that, and we'll do this again in 6 months, and I'll tell you how I did.
And let's see if TikTok has taken over the entire market, folks.
Yeah, who knows?
Last question as we go ahead and wrap up today. For business owners taking on the role of salesman, chief cook and bottle washer and marketer, what's your advice for them as they try and understand, do I want to be involved in the marketing? Do I not want to be involved in the marketing? This seems too intimidating. Where do you start? Assuming you didn't have the background you did, if you had to take on all this stuff, what would your advice to them be?
Hire to your weakness, right? So you always want, look at it like a wheel, right? And your business is perfectly balanced among all the spokes of the wheel. Okay.
Mhm.
But if you have a weakness in one of those spokes, let's say, for example, it is writing, creative writing, right? Fill that in with somebody not you. Okay. And then once that gap is filled, find the next weakness. Find the next one that has to be filled in. Only do what you do well. If you don't do something well, unless you're a super fast learner, and there are people like that, I will admit that I'm a very fast learner, um, but hire around and fill in. The other thing is don't be afraid to outsource. I have saved thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars using people in India, who are usually extremely thorough. I hired somebody in India to do my Google search, to what's it called, maximize my SEO.
Yeah,
Whatever.
maximize your SEO reach.
Yeah, I use that because I couldn't. Where do I start? And focus on what you do best, and try not to be a jack of all trades. Be a manager of all trades. You don't always have to be a jack of all trades.
That is perfect advice. And I mean, that's a lesson I have had to figure out for myself as I was juggling all these things. I was taking on more people, more responsibility, which meant I had less time to commit to stuff. I quickly found that I had a quality assurance issue with the stuff that I was delivering my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing I did was I have two phenomenal women who contract with me, and I subcontract for contracts. And, I just brought on a third recently on an hourly basis, incredibly affordable. I brought her in at $15 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
but she's the one editing all my reels, all my short form content. I've got somebody who's handling majority of my email now. I just brought on somebody to help with my Marketer on the Run LinkedIn exclusive newsletter now. So it got to the point where it's like, what's the stuff I really could use an expert on? Found the person for that. And then as I grew, it was like, what's the stuff I like doing and I can do, but I can't make the time for it, but it's necessary. And my emails, because I run 3 different email lists for 3 different audience segments, that became one thing where as soon as I got rid of that, after a couple of weeks, I was still like looking in every day, making sure they were doing it right. But months have gone by. I'm almost surprised when I see my own email in my inbox and it's written exactly how I would do it, and it looks perfect. And it's like, dang, I don't have to worry about this. So definitely, bringing in people to help with those deficiency points, bringing in the experts to help you at least get that, that running start you want. That's so important.
Yeah, and in the media world, there's this thing called publishing sideways, and if you don't mind a little bit of a analogy here. In the media world, in the media world, the spokes of the wheel that we just talked about are the audience, content, sales, advertising sales, right? Market, reach, readership, everything, and as a publisher of a media brand, you have to know all that stuff, but you don't have to know all that stuff. You have to manage all that stuff, right? You follow your gut. Of course you follow your gut. That's what makes you good or it makes you bad. You're smart, right? It's always better to surround yourself with skill as opposed to try to apply your own skill during the goal of saving money. It's the hardest thing to do, to hire well and to hire to your weakness. You don't hire to your strength, you hire to your weakness, right? So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a new brand, that's what you got to do. And it's tough. But the thing is that's one of those matters that you got to trust yourself to scale, and it'll happen. My situation's a little different, right? I'm a retired dude. I was able to self-fund, right? I didn't have to go to GoFundMe or Kickstarter or any of that stuff. So, and having some experience, I could figure it out. I could tell, hey man, I just don't know Google search, right? But I sure do know how to find somebody who knows Google search because it's so immediately available.
Yeah. I mean, even to this day, and I let my clients know about this, like, if I can't do something for you, I have a partnership agreement with another agency somewhere in the country where I don't mind referring you to them because 1, I trust their quality. Yeah. 2, I also get a commission. Nothing comes for free in life, but it's about figuring that out. And as I have gone through my entrepreneurial journey, I've definitely had to tell myself, it's like, it's okay to say when you need help. It's okay to say when your time and your money is best spent on something else. So that way you're not being dragged down by this thing. It's almost like your ego gets involved. It's like, well, I have to do this because then I'll feel like a fraud. It's like, listen, I'm not doing website design for folks. I tell them that off the front. It's like, you want to work on your email, you want to work on your brand identity, you want to work on your social media content, I'm your guy. Website, I've got a guy I'll connect you with who's tremendous. And this is all he does. He lives and breathes design work.
Yeah. So you drank the Kool-Aid already. You're not trying to do it. You're not up at 2:00 in the morning trying to do code or watching a YouTube video to learn how to do something, when you could have just paid somebody a piece of your fee and had it done perfectly and not had to worry about it.
Yep, exactly. Once I did that, I finally started sleeping again.
There we go.
Tim, if people want to go ahead and check out the store, check out the watches, connect with you across social media, how could they do so?
Well, they get on the socials. We aren't on X, but we're on Monterey Watches on Instagram and Facebook, and TikTok. Monterey Watches on TikTok, online MontereyWatches.com. If you want to pick up a quality timepiece at an affordable price, you can use discount code
Remso MBA.
I'm sorry, that name again?
Remso MBA.
One more time.
Remso MBA for a nice, sick deal. So you can go ahead, look awesome. Get it for your brother, get it for your father. Everyone looks good in a Monterey watch. And I'm not just saying that, as a brand ambassador. I'm saying that as somebody that buys the watches, that loves the watches. It's, it's fun.
Father's Day is coming up. Graduation is coming up in May. Wedding
Folks,
season. Are you in a wedding party? Groomsmen, perhaps?
I'm going to go ahead and make it easier for everyone and include all the links and more in the show notes today. Tim, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come talk to me and the listeners and viewers.
It is my pleasure. You make me feel young, Remso.
Appreciate you, Tim. Well, folks, if you got value in this, I'm hoping you'll go ahead and give a little value back. Go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit that bell on YouTube if you're watching this. If you're listening on Spotify and other places, a 5-star rating and review, letting people know about the fun you're having and the stuff you're learning in the process. And if you want to go ahead and work with me and my team, help your small business, whether you're a content creator, help grow your nonprofit, which I over the weekend, I went and spoke to some great nonprofit leaders and CEOs. Please go ahead and connect with me. Send me a message at marketerontherun.com. That's marketerontherun.com. Fill out that contact form. Let's get you on the schedule today and help you achieve your results sooner, not later. As always, I'm Remso W. Martinez. Keep running. Good night.